Hello, everyone, and this is going to be one of my authors' chats of the week, since I've really only had enough time to do these weekly chats and not much else when it comes to lives. But I'll be joined by my co-host in a minute or two, so I'll try to keep my eye out for him in the meantime. I'll give it a moment and let everybody try to get notified that we are live and we're about to talk about all things books. So if you are joining in at any time, feel free to ask questions. Here we go. Easy enough to see if he sees my invite. But like I said, if you feel free. Crossing fingers.
All right, let's see.
Okay, I hear you. I don't see you. And I don't know why it does that like half the time. Oh, there we go. You figured it out. Easy enough.
Dorky technology being dorky as usual, right?
Yes, and I love your shirt, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, there you go. Gotta get it. Gotta get it.
I actually have been growing a collection of bookish and author-based T-shirts because one, they're great to wear for signings or anytime, but
Yes,
it's fun.
that's right. That's right. Hey, let me get this window real quick.
Not
Super
a
bright.
problem. But yeah, I'm excited about talking about books, and this is the first time for both of us to meet Ingrid, so here we go. Well, welcome, and thank you for joining me today.
Thank
And
you.
my kind of lives are pretty low-key, so at any point, if you want to answer comments or questions, feel free to jump in. But I always like to start off with my co-host, being you this week, and I'll let you talk about what you're writing and a little bit about yourself. Give us your
Okay.
book pitch.
The 2-minute elevator book pitch, right? What are you doing?
Exactly. We have to drill ourselves on this.
Yeah, so I'm ZS Diamanti, or Zach. People call me Zach. Out in the wild, people call me Zach, right? And I've been writing a book series called Stone and Sky. You see one, but here I've got one right here. There's always
Yeah.
one around, right? So I've been writing this book series, Stone and Sky, and it's an epic fantasy adventure series, which is super fun.
I
Um,
love it.
and I've been having a lot of fun with that. Actually, I've been writing the second book in the series, and I've
Ooh.
been just before I got on, I was doing edits, racking the first round of edits, which is always fun. First round of edits is
Sarcasm.
always the best, but it's going pretty smoothly compared to last time, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. But
Yeah, and Stone and Sky was your debut novel? Or have you written one
my
before?
first,
Okay, yeah.
it's my first full length. Yeah, I've been writing for years.
Mm-hmm.
Writing short stories and horror short stories, believe it or not.
Love
Doing
it.
all sorts of fun stuff. Literary nonfiction, and I even sold a poem at one point. So I've dabbled around in a lot of different things, but this was the first full length novel. So I was like, okay, we got to do this.
Well, I was gonna say, I've been loving watching your videos for the last little bit and all your pre-promotion stuff because you've been doing it right. When I went through publishing my first book, I did everything wrong. So I love seeing someone do everything. It feels like, at least from the outside observer, that you've done everything right. And the fact also that you have a griffin on yours, you have totally been
Yes.
singing to those griffin lovers out there. I
I mean,
hear the
let's
chatter.
go. How cool is that, right? Yeah.
Yes.
I did it. I
So,
did. I had to have a griffin on the prelids collection too. Look at that beauty. Oh yeah.
ooh,
She's so awesome.
pretty. Very
Yeah.
pretty.
That's because griffins are awesome.
They are awesome. They are definitely awesome. Yeah, one of my friends ever since college, one of her favorite animals was the griffin, and anytime there's something griffin, that just makes her day. So I'll have to
Yeah.
pass along your book to her as well. But yeah, so let me know, what's your book about? You gave me a little bit of taste of kind of the fantasy realm, but yeah, what's your
Yeah.
main characters? What's the world? Let
Sure,
me go a
sure.
little bit deeper.
Yeah, let's go a little deeper. Okay, so um, this is a fantasy world where griffins are this big
Yes.
deal because
Hmm.
we have this organization called the Griffin Guard, and
Ooh.
they defend the realm from the wyvern riding orcs. So we're talking about like high flying, epic fantasy, like in the sky aerial battles. So much fun.
I love that.
Um, and so basically, the book is about a lone guardian who is the lone surviving griffin guardian of his squadron. Everybody else is killed, and a local huntsman's family finds him, recovers him, and then they end up joining forces with him and a couple other locals. They create this ragtag team, and they go on this epic quest to try and get him back home so he can get back to the fight. And along the way, they find out that, actually, the orcs have secret weapons that we didn't even know
Oh no, that's
existed
great.
anymore. And then they end up going on this much longer epic quest than they even expected at the start. So it's a lot of magic and friendship and
Mhm.
found family kind of tropes
I like
and
it. I like it.
swords and epic weapons with
I
names
love
and
it.
stuff, all the fun stuff, right? So
I absolutely love it. So would you qualify this? And I know not everybody knows all the newer quote unquote
oh
subgenres.
man,
Would you qualify this as a noble bright? Because you're talking about the questing and found family and positive feels, and it sounds like you're talking about noble bright. But there are
totally.
so many different types of epic fantasy, so I was curious.
Yes, this is very much Noble Bright. It is hope is the through line theme for this entire first book. So it's totally falls in Noble Bright. And in the terms of nowadays, the clean fantasy, it falls under that realm too, because I didn't want to there's so many books out there now, right? But I find
Hmm.
that I love like the really classic style fantasy, like the
Oh yeah,
fun, just like we just want to go on an adventure and run into a wizard and fight
send
sorcerers.
me on a quest.
And yeah, right? You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
just want to go on an epic fantasy adventure. Like, let's not worry about all this other stuff. So, I was like, let's skip the sex. Let's skip the, gratuitous violence.
Hmm.
We don't need the language. We just want to go on a fun, epic adventure. So that's kind
Well,
of
okay.
where I landed.
I have a new question for you now. Okay, so this is
Yeah,
interesting. This is always interesting. Is your book series catered to be a young adult or a clean adult? Like, who would you want
yeah,
to? I mean, not to say you can't have readers overlap between the two of those a lot, but
yeah.
which one are you aiming for?
Yeah. So I've marketed it as a general trade
Okay.
adult fantasy, and it is just like a clean adult fantasy. But
Yeah.
because it is clean, though, it has potential for young readers too.
Hmm.
I've had several moms reach out to me that they're like, "Oh my gosh, love this book. I can't wait. Like I'm giving it to my son tomorrow so he can start reading it and then we can talk about it." And I'm just like, that is so awesome. That's so much fun that you guys can read and enjoy this fantasy world together, right? So
Oh yeah.
I'm all about that.
And I don't know, any way you can encourage younger people, especially, to get into reading. I mean,
Yeah.
at any age, but
Yeah.
the younger you are, there's so much potential there. And I don't
Totally.
know, that's how I kind of got into it, was like
Sure.
having books that it was on the Harry Potter books. My mom loved it because it's still, an adult could appreciate it, even though it was middle grade literature, but it was just enough, intrigue and detail and depth that adults can enjoy it, even though it's
Yes.
catered to young
Yes.
people, but vice versa with some of these
Sure.
cleaner adults. Yeah.
Yeah, and so and all my characters, like all my main characters, are all adults. So
Hmm.
they're all uh, talking. They're all doing adult type things,
Hmm.
but I mean they're doing it in a way that's also reasonable for young kids, like 10-year-olds and 15-year-olds, and all those guys who want to read something just epic and fun, right? So yeah, it
But
works
that's the
great.
thing, like, I write various epic fantasies. So I have like the very dark side, and then kind of gets
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
noble,
yeah,
bright, clean fantasy for my young adult readers. But it's always fun to, dabble in a little bit of variety, because
yeah.
the clean fantasy, the epic fantasy, the more noble, bright side of things, it's fun. It's fun, and it makes you feel good in the end. And it
Yeah,
takes
it
you to
is.
worlds and places, and you could be riding griffins and
Yeah.
fighting wyverns, or you could be jumping through magical portals into my magical multiverse, or whatever it is. It's
Yeah.
just
fun.
Sometimes you just want to have fun. Honestly, I don't think, I think for adults, we don't have enough fun anymore. Like as
That's
adults, seriously, we really don't. There's so many things that we have to do, and there's so many things that, like, I mean, how often do we say, "Oh, I have to do this" when somebody asks you what you got going on? Oh, I have to do this. I have to do that. We don't have enough fun anymore. We need to have more fun as adults, and I'm all about let's have some fun.
Yes, I love that. So, what inspired you for this particular story? Have you always been dreaming of writing griffins, or what is it that inspired you to write your first book?
Okay, so I've um, it's kind of a long story, but I'll try and cut to the chase here. When I was a kid, I didn't have
You have an hour.
Yeah,
Yeah, keep
yeah,
it
right.
down to below an hour
Yeah,
though.
yeah. When I was a kid, I didn't have glasses, right? And
Uh-huh.
so reading for me was ridiculously hard, like so hard.
Mm-hmm.
I would read and then like my eyes couldn't go to the next line. And it was a stigmatism thing where it just kept going back to the
Mm-hmm.
same line. Like I hated reading. It drove me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And the um, I remember I would even like lay down on my books to try and read it, like to try and read it better. And
Oh
then I get in
man.
trouble because I was laying down on my book instead of reading, but I was reading, and so it
Mm,
became this pain and this chore. That is
yeah.
until one day I got The Hobbit placed in my hand, and I didn't care how long it was going to take me to read every single page of that book. I read every single page, and I loved it. And like a couple days later, I ended up writing my first story, which, if I remember right, was called The Flobbit. Very original. And and my brother and I, we used to tell each other stories, like choose your own adventure stories. It was like
Oh
our
yeah.
own version of D&D, but like at night we were in our bunk beds, and we were
That's so
supposed to be
cool.
asleep, but we'd be like telling each other fantasy stories and stuff. And so I've always enjoyed storytelling. It's always been
Hmm.
around for me. But when I finally got glasses, like, so I was in the Air Force and they were like, dude, you need glasses. And I was like,
Oh,
wow, I could see. And all of a
this
sudden,
is what the world looks like.
oh, right. Yeah. Is this what everybody else sees? No way. Like, that's crazy. And so I was like, oh, I gotta grab every book I can get. I'm going to read everything. But I'm like, okay, I was 22 at the time. So like I've
Mhm.
missed 22 years at least worth of books, right? And so I just started grabbing everything, classics and
Love it.
everything you could think of. And, I'm reading like, um, I'm reading Poe, and I'm reading Edgar Rice Burroughs, and I'm
Wow.
reading H.P. Lovecraft, and so I start developing this very gothic like style language for my
I can see
writing,
that. Yeah.
which is why, of course, the horror started selling and doing well, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm pretty good at this. I could do this, and then eventually I was like, but one day, one of these days,
One day.
I'm going to start writing books, and when I do, the first one's going to be it's got to be fantasy. It's got to
I
be.
love that. That's what's fun. I'm going to come back to that in just a moment. We did have a question pop up a moment ago saying,
Yeah.
what do you do if you have major writer's block? So, have you ever dealt with writer's block and how did you get over it? And then I'll do say my version of it.
Oh yeah, that's okay. So for me, um, my brain is wild. I don't usually have a whole lot of writer's block. It just in general. The second book in the series is already done. I'm getting ready to start the third one. I've got plans for like 18 other books. Like
Okay, I was
actually,
wondering how long the series was going to
like
get. Okay.
I have like premised out 18 other books, all in different like trilogies, but half of them in the same world in Finlandia.
Hmm.
Um, I haven't run into the problem where I've like run into like I'm really stuck writer's block. However, I have a couple of times while going through run into situations where I'm like, okay, how the heck do I fix this? How the heck do we get
Yep.
from here to here? Like
Yeah.
I know we got to get there, but I don't know
Yeah.
how we're gonna get there. And
I've been there.
yes, yeah, I learned very quickly. Okay, I have to start plotting in a little bit. I have to find a plotting method that works for me
Hmm.
because I can't do a like straight outline that writing down everything that happens in a chapter and then go and write them. I'm like, no, I'm going to write it. When I do that, I'll write it.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like very, very like
Loose.
loose. Yes,
Yeah, that's
very
the way I approach
loose
it too. Yeah, use that
pinpoints.
one.
And it's like, okay, in this chapter, it's going to be about these characters. And by the end of the chapter, they're going to be here. Just because in epic fantasy, we got to make sure everybody gets to the right places.
I feel like not. It would be hard unless you get someone who, well, maybe you are good at this, but like if you drew just a loose diagram or not map of your kingdom or continent, and have like little pins of your characters and have them like moving around like
Yeah.
some old medieval war game stuff.
Yeah.
You can be like, here they are.
No joke. When I wrote the first book, the map was I had this scribbled out map.
Mhm.
I also draw, so like the map for me, visualization was like super huge. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
if they're gonna go over here, it's got to take them a certain amount of time to get here. And I started
Mhm.
getting way too in the weeds on that, which I probably shouldn't have. I probably should have just went for it, but it worked out because I ended up drawing the map at the same time as writing the book. And then the
Mhm.
second time through, I had this visualization of the map in my mind while I was writing the book. And it was like, okay, I don't really have to worry so much about the map until after. Then I'll draw everything and we'll get that sorted out. But it
Yeah.
was interesting learning the process that worked the first time and what didn't work the first time so I could fix it for the next time.
And that's the thing is, it's all a learning game, and
Right.
like you said, you have to figure out to what extent of a plotter versus pantser versus planter, I guess, whatever the middle one is,
Yeah, right,
and
right.
figure out where you fit and what works for you for that. But yeah, as for writer's block, I've kind of like you, been fortunate not to have had and dealt with it, but I know it can be crippling for some people.
Yeah.
One tip I've heard some people do is they plan a writing sprint. Maybe it's 10
Yeah.
minutes, if 15 minutes or 20 is too intimidating, and they sit
Yeah.
down and they just put words on paper. It doesn't matter if they make sense, they just do it and get
That's right.
yourself into almost that muscle memory routine of just writing. And then that sometimes
Yeah.
just sparks it and gets you off and running because maybe some ideas that you just ended up free flowing onto the paper or virtual paper or whatever ends up, triggering something and you're off and running. So maybe
Yeah.
that'll work. You can always
Other
try
tips
that.
I've heard have been like, hey, start a journal. Just start writing something. Like even
Mhm.
if it's pen and paper, just start writing something. I've also heard walk away from that project and start a different one.
I've heard that one too.
Because sometimes it will shake cobwebs loose, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden you're like excited about something new. And when you're excited about it, you actually like you start going, and then after you're done or ready, you can go back to that project and go, no, okay, no, we're good, we're ready to go now.
Yeah, and also remember, sometimes there are definitely authors that will write pretty much an entire book, but not for the point of publishing it. It's just to work on your process and get yourself,
Totally.
going, and then they move to the projects they want to. And yes, that
Sure.
sounds like a lot of wasted time, and I get, that is time, that is dedication, but it any kind of writing can help you improve. Practice makes
Sure.
perfect. So
Yeah.
maybe, writing a dud book for a little bit, something that you may come back to years later to actually
Sure. Yeah.
rewrite and make it work might help. But there's
Well,
always
and
so many
that
tips and
and
tricks.
you got to know like yourself, right? You have to know who
Mhm.
you are in your process. Like I'm 35 and writing these books. So I've been living like I had two careers before this. And
Mhm.
so I've been working with other people for, uh, almost 20 years at this point, right? And
Yeah.
I've learned who I am and how I'm wired. And when you know how you're
Mhm.
wired, it's a little easier for you to plan and process things out the way that you
Oh yeah.
need to do it.
Oh yeah. And like I said, my process is not going to work for probably most people, but vice versa is like everybody has to
Right.
find what works for you, and you just have to just start, start
That's right.
somewhere and try it. If I see a comment saying, can't step away, my brain doesn't let me do that. I understand. I'm a completionist. If I start a project, I want it done. But, those are just different tricks and tips. So if one doesn't work for you, maybe another one will.
Here's another idea for you. How about this? write a prelude story about one of the characters in the book.
Ooh, I like that.
Walk away from the book itself, write a prelude story for one of the characters in the book, something that happens to them beforehand. And when you get excited about that, all of a sudden you're going to want to write more about that character, and then it'll push you to start writing more in the book. And
Well,
bonus for that is once you write that prelude story, now you can start giving that prelude story away as a reader magnet to start building your readers list. Let's go.
See, I love that idea. The problem with that is I did something similar. I went to the writers conference and I was almost done with the first book that I was writing. And the first book was meant to be a standalone first book because I wanted to get to some of my other projects, and had a very, very similar, oh, thank you, had a very, very similar assignment. Yeah. Where I was supposed to take a character, some obscure third party of that world, and just write everything I knew, create the whole vibe about them, know their history, know who they are, what their motivations, like a non-important character, but just do that. And I picked a character that was supposed to already be deceased by the time my book began. And all of a sudden I came out of that writer conference and I was like, I have 3 more books to go. So it ended up being a 4-book series, but it was a great first series to figure out my writing voice and learn the process and everything. But I did not expect 1 to turn into 4 because of one little writing assignment. So those writing assignments can spark something.
It could spark something, a whole new life in you is something that you didn't expect. So it's worth a try.
Definitely. Now, when you were talking about the maps and you were kind of like trying to figure out how to visualize your characters, I'm assuming based on that, but it's an assumption that you write multiple POVs?
I do, yes. And this,
okay, you are way more advanced than I am. That sounds so intimidating for me.
I usually, so the way I do it is usually through chapters and chapter breaks. Even because I have so many characters that come along, and sometimes they're in the same chapters, and you have to okay, it's from their perspective right now, but then we got to switch to so-and-so's perspective because it's the more interesting perspective for what's about to happen, right? And so we go, okay, so let's chapter break here and we'll switch over. And I try to do that to try and, for me personally, it helps to compartmentalize everybody and keep everybody, separated, right? In the preludes collection, each prelude is just one character, right? And so, they're essentially the size of a chapter that you would get, right? So, each one of those follows a specific character, and so that pattern kind of stays throughout the books. Is okay for the most part. This chapter follows so and so, but if so and so is also with them, well, they can get a little bit in the chapter as well, right? So. Yeah,
because I'm actually working my way through Wheel of Time, the 5th book right now, and that's multiple points of view. But yeah, as I'm reading that, I do think there is that nice strategy of when every reader, when you have multiple points of view, or even when you don't, is going to have a favorite character or a sub-story in a book, especially when it deals with epic fantasy. And so breaking them apart and separating them by chapters is both irritating for the reader, but builds that suspense excitement because you want to know what happens next. And you're like, when do I get back to so-and-so? I want to know that storyline. I mean, this is cool too, but I want to know that
But what happened? You can't leave me like that. What chapter is that? When are we going to see them again? I have been told that I've gotten into a very good rhythm.
That's good.
Of right when they're like, okay, but now I need to know about, that's the next chapter. There you go. It worked out well. So that was a great compliment that I got the other day, and I was like, oh, good. I strategized that very specifically, so I'm glad it worked.
I like cliffhangers. I do. And I know that's a hot button topic for some people. Some people do not like cliffhangers, but I love it because
it makes you want to go.
That irritating, frustrating sense.
You're invested.
I hate when I'm in it, but I also appreciate it too because it does build up, again, the suspense. And as a writer, I like doing it to people. So apologies for people who don't like cliffhangers. I write cliffhangers.
It's kind of what it's fun for us, so let's be real.
is. And I get, if you're not a rapid release author, it is, again, can be a little frustrating for readers to like wait however months or years or years
Yeah.
and years and years
Yeah.
and years, Martin, those kind of things.
Oh man, we're name dropping. No.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's true.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. Rothfuss. Sorry. So, yeah.
I feel like a little something coming on.
Something,
Anywho, yeah.
yeah.
Oh man, but yeah, your book came out not that long ago. I've been watching all your wonderful, wonderful book box opening by so many people. Those are
Yes.
so cool.
So
How did
much
you
fun.
come with the idea of like what you were going to do for your book box and how you were going to promote it? Because I
Yeah.
think that's pretty cool. It's the author writer side of things.
Yeah, so Stone and Sky was actually just about published ready, just waiting for final edits back in December.
Wow.
And oh man, the patience and the pain and I just want to publish. And I'm doing all this work. I'm working so hard and nobody actually even gets to read this book yet. I mean, so many things, months, months of going like this, pulling your hair out, right? And so I was working the whole time, just let's build a baseline. Let's build a foundation. Let's build all the things to get ready for this launch because I was coming at this. I want this to be a career. I want this to be more than just one book. Like, I want this to be more than just Stone and Sky. I want this to be Stone and Sky and all of the books that Z.S. Diamanti plans to write, right? I have too many stories in my head that I got to write. So I'm like, I might as well do it right. So I've been on TikTok since February. And I spent a couple weeks watching other people, following other people, seeing what they're doing, mostly just training the algorithm to know that I was all about fantasy books before I started posting. And then thankfully, because I did that, once the algorithm knew what my account was about, my first post, I was at 1,000 followers the next day. So I was like,
fantastic.
Perfect. Okay. This is working so far. And we've got the website set up and we've got the reader's magnet set up and we got all these things. I was set up all the prelude stories as reader magnets.
See,
as
the way you do
free
it right.
Stories. Yeah. Set up all the preludes as free stories. Hey, I got 7 free stories for you to check out about characters that show up in my upcoming book. And you can get them for free in my bio, blah, blah, blah. Doing all that stuff and working my way all the way up to it. And posting goofy things about fantasy books and libraries and books in general, and just building the account. And then once I was there, okay, now here we are. It's almost time for launch. It's July, I think. Yes, it was in July. I published the Preludes collection as a collection, which was super cool because a whole bunch of people were so excited, like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were going to do these at a physical, like, I was like, yeah, I know, it's so cool, right? I wasn't really expecting it either, and then I did it. and then so I planned to, okay, I want to make launch big, okay? And what I want to do is I want to send out boxes that are fun and exciting for people to open because I want them to share it. Because if people are sharing something that they're excited about, other people will get excited about it as well.
Absolutely.
So that's where the autograph boxes came from. And I go, okay, how do I want to do this? I saw a video by Otto Schaefer. He is awesome. If you guys don't know him, make sure you go and find him, follow him. Hey, JL, what's up, man? And then I saw a video from him, and I said, okay, bro, and he and I have been friends on TikTok forever, right? I said, bro, I saw this video about your autograph books, at how you like do a box and then you send them out to people. Can you like just would you let me know? Like, would you mind telling me what size box and other things, like
Yeah,
what
that's
size
awesome.
packaging you're using and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. Like, just give me a somewhere to start. And he was like, oh, sure, man. Like, he gives me the measurements of the boxes. He gives me
Mm.
he's like, you could get compostable, mailer bags. You could get this or this and this. And I was like, oh, wow, that's great.
Yeah, I may have to
So,
go ask you because I've been trying to up my book box, Annie, and every time I think I was like, I'm catching up, then someone comes out with something really cool. I'm like, wait, what? Wait, jealousy.
yes, right. And so I was like, oh, this is a great place to start, right? So, okay,
Mhm.
I have packaging materials taken care of. I've got that idea now. Now I don't have to worry about that. Now let me think about what we could put in there that would be cool. And I was
Mhm.
like, oh, we got to put stickers in there. Stickers are just the coolest. Plus, if you make the stickers really pretty with the book art and then you throw a QR code on it and somebody
Uh-huh.
puts it on their computer, and somebody's like, what's that awesome griffin on your computer?
Yeah.
Oh, it's this book. Here, scan here, and you can get to it, right? Wonderful. Uh, Making pretty bookmarks with the book art.
Yep.
Let's see, what else did we do?
I have
Oh,
one
I
for you.
did.
I just thought of one for you. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it would work, but just knowing based on obviously the book and the collection. What if now this is you would have to poll readers and all this and make sure it makes sense. What if you did like specially quill pens, which are griffin pens?
Dude, love it. I'm writing that down.
Just throwing it out there. It doesn't make sense for me, but I was like, ooh, that would make sense for a future book box for you. You could get your own griffin feather quill pen. There you go.
Ooh, I like that. I love that. That is wonderful. See, and these are great. It's us working together. Authors going, oh yeah, have you thought of this? Or oh yeah, have you thought of this? This is the best part about this community is that we get
Mhm.
together and we can talk about things and go, oh, that's a great idea. Have you tried this? We also did like a certificate of authenticity because there's this library in Whitestone, which is the home of the Griffin Guard, and so it's like this certificate of authenticity that officially certifies that this book was signed, is a book from an author copy hailing from the Library of Whitestone, signed by Mistress Lintz, who's the
Mhm.
librarian at the Library of Whitestone, right? And then we put the date, and that is an author copy, right? We did. Let's see. I did uh, recipe cards.
I love when people
So
do that. I got a book box that had a
yes,
recipe recently, and I thought that was so cool.
yes,
I'm like,
yes.
man, I wish I was better at cooking to like understand that. I would have to talk to my husband. He's the cook, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
can you create a recipe for me?
Yes, yeah, right. And it was so fun because it's like, uh, because there are cozy elements in the book where like they're
Yeah.
eating together and they're, having a meal together and that kind of stuff. Or like this one goblin, he's an entrepreneur and he makes the world's best glorb wine, and he's
Mhm.
starting a new, tavern at the orc capital, and he meets this other goblin on the road who makes this amazing goblin stew that he's never tried before, and then they become partners. And so I was like, okay, we got to do a goblin stew recipe on one side of the
Yeah.
cards, and then and I did like the land. It's so the world is Finlestia, but the land that these guys live in is called Tureen, and so it's like taste of Tureen,
Oh,
on the card, and then on the back it's like this elven honey bread called
oh
Echlin
yeah.
that's like delicious, like legit delicious. I was
Yum.
like, whoa, this is really good. That's perfect. That's what it's supposed to be. And so, we did these recipes, and man, I don't even remember. I made stickers. Okay, so, uh,
I need
so
to figure out
I,
where a good sticker place because that's what I need to learn. I
yeah,
was like,
okay, yes, I'll tell you all about that. The so tea bags. I got tea bags because
yeah.
I mentioned tea a few times in the book because
Mhm.
this character made tea. It's a special
Mhm.
healing tea. It's a lemon flower tea. La da da. This character made this kind of tea as he was hosting these characters at his
Mhm.
humble home, right? And so I made these tea bags, and I got these tea bags. They're just like Twinings, like regular black tea is one of them, and the other one's like lemon ginger or something. But I designed stickers that would match the colors, and I
Mm.
put the stickers on the bags, so the bag is like Tobin's tea, and this one's like Ilaria's lemon flower
Aw.
tea, and just so much fun. Actually, hang on, I got them
Do
right
it,
here.
do
I
it,
got them right
do
here.
it. I'm going to make sure there's no questions popping up. Sorry. I was immersed. Yes, fantasy recipes.
These are so
Yes, I
fun.
was just mentioning your book box.
Okay, here you
Sorry.
go. There's our
Ooh,
recipe card. On the one side, we got the elven honey
I
bread, and
love
then there's
it.
yeah, it's just fun, just little stuff that's not like
Mhm.
terribly difficult to make, but it's fun. And then we got Tobin's tea,
Aw.
and then we got Ilaria's lemon flower tea.
I love
And
it.
just, it was like, okay, what can we do? Look, we can't go crazy. We have we have a very limited budget. This is the
Yeah,
first
and that's the
book.
thing.
At this point, we're not making any money. We have to like
Mhm.
really plan this and strategize this. Let's make it happen. And we just started piecing things together that we were like, okay, we can buy this in bulk and it will work, and then it'll be really fun and really cool for people to find in there. And then
Mhm.
we wrap the books, of course, and it's so much fun. It's a
I love it.
riot.
That is so cool. Yes, and I have to up my game because all you guys are doing fantastic jobs, and I have to catch up. I feel like, but that's the thing is, you
No,
learn. You always.
yeah,
I'm always learning every time I do one of these lives, and I do see a
yeah.
couple comments that popped in saying, yes, this is a very much a how to market a book 101. The inspiration of this live is giving off is so contagious. Thank you. That's cool. Fantasy recipes are great ideas. And D.A. Carlson, yeah, her book box also had a fantastic bread recipe. So, and I also have Andrew saying hello, Zach. So there you go.
Oh, hello.
I was catching up, catching up, catching
Hey,
up.
yeah, we're catching up on the chat there. No, I mean it's just putting together these boxes is just fun, and it's like
Hmm.
it is an extra thing, of course, but it's autograph boxes, and I've been selling these
Hmm.
autograph books on TikTok directly, and that's
Hmm.
been going really well, and but it's the same as when they buy from my website or when I
Yep.
was sending them at the beginning, right? And it's so much fun. We don't do the tea bags in the boxes anymore because those were for pre-orders and just to
Yes.
make it a
Yes.
little special in the PR boxes. But all the other stuff is in there, right? And we make these fun boxes that are fun to open. I write a little hand note to everybody, and then we have a
Hmm.
custom wax seal that we,
Yes.
seal all the
I
envelopes
love
with.
those.
Like, it's just, it's extra, of course, but it's fun. Like,
It is fun.
it's worth doing, and I've had a lot of fun with it.
And I have a
So
question that
much
popped up.
that
I've,
like I already have plans for the next one, right? Like for the next box, I'm
ooh, I
like,
love it.
ooh, we could put that in the next box and that in the next box, and it actually even changes the way you write a little bit because
Hmm.
in the next book, I was like, oh, I want to make sure to get like this recipe in there, and I want to make sure to get this recipe in there because I want to make sure we get to put that in the next box because that'll be so fun,
Hmm.
right? It's goofy, but it's fun.
I love that. And I have a question for you, actually. It popped up from
Oh, for
Dee
me,
Carlson. She was like, I would love to hear how your TikTok shop is working for you. Yeah, that's something as well as like, it's something that I would
sure,
like to get into. I
yeah.
do think, if I'm correct, you would have to correct me that you would need a business bank account to make that work, right?
So I want to say I do it through my. I want to say I do it through my PayPal, which is a
Okay.
business PayPal account, which
Yeah,
you can
yeah,
do.
some
I
kind
mean,
of business.
that's yeah,
Yeah.
and I think that's where that goes through, if I remember correctly. I set it up a little while ago, so I'm trying. It's been a few weeks. There's been a lot going on in the last few weeks, but
Yeah.
uh, the TikTok shop is going great. I had one video do really well, and I sold my entire autograph batch in less than 24 hours, and I was like,
Fantastic.
oh wow, that was unexpected. I was not expecting that. And then of course you curse yourself for not having more stock.
It happens. But
No,
you
it
have
could
only
have,
so much room,
but
too.
you can only do so much, right? You can only have so much. And when you're on a limited budget, when you're just really getting going, you're like,
Yep.
I can only buy this kind of batch at a time.
Hmm.
But as more and more sell, you go, okay, now I can have this batch. Oh, this is great. Okay, now I
Mm-hmm.
can have this batch, oh, which is great. And so now I have some in stock. You can see them back there in that corner, I
Yeah.
think. Um, and so now I have some in stock, and they didn't sell out in 24 hours for this batch, but okay, whatever. Now we have a batch that can go on different videos, and you attach it to your video. Now, I got this idea from Marshall J. Moore. I don't know if you guys know who he is, but
Yes.
he's pretty
He
awesome.
lives not that far from me. I've met him
Yeah,
before.
yeah, I know. I remember seeing you guys at Dragon Con or something, and I was like, oh man, that's
Yeah.
not fair. You guys all get to hang out and stuff. All right, I'll see you guys at $20.
There you go.
Yeah, right. But
Actually, are you going to 20 Bucks?
I am. Yeah, I'll be there.
No,
Are you
it'll
gonna
be
be
my
there?
first time. Yay, I know it's so
Woohoo!
fun. I love it. Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
it's my first time too. So, well, we can walk around looking like scared little
Yay.
meerkats, not knowing where we're going, right? Like we're lost.
Exactly.
They'll be like, "Oh, there's all the newbies. Come on over here, guys!" Right? So that would be
That's
fun.
me.
Hi, that's us. Um, no, but he started his, and he was running some tests on how he wanted to run the TikTok shop, and I
Mm-hmm.
was like, okay, bro. And he and I have been in Discord and stuff together, and we've been chatting for a while. But I was like, okay, tell me how you set up your TikTok shop because I think I'm gathering what you're putting down, but I'm not totally sure. And he was like, yes, okay, so here's what I did. I opened a separate account for my TikTok shop specifically,
Mm-hmm.
and then I became an influencer for the products on this account. And I was like, haha, okay, why would you do that? Well, because if you're a business account, you're limited on the different music that you can use.
Yeah, that is true.
And you're like, man, like half of my videos I'm not even promoting anything in half of my videos. I'm just
Mm-hmm.
laughing and joking about fantasy books, right? So,
Yeah.
which is how to do it, by the way. Um, and it was like, oh, very clever. I see. And so what I did was I set up a Golden Griffin Press TikTok account that became a TikTok shop and put my autographed books in there and went in and found myself as an influencer, boop, boop, connected them all up. And now, as an influencer of the books, you can go on to my account and you can go to TikTok Shop or whatever on
Mm-hmm.
my ZS Diamanti account, and you can find those books there. You can also, when I post videos, I can attach one of the books to a specific video. Now, the only problem with that is if you're sold out on that book, you can't actually attach it. So like if you have no more stock, you can't attach it to any videos. So then you have to like really strategize how you're going to like upload your videos because you're like, well, I'm out of books, so this video doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really work. I gotta save it for next week or something. Well, I'm out of
Mm-hmm.
books. I can't post this video. So what I did this time around, I was like, okay, let's just hold off this 8 books. These ones are not going in the TikTok shop so that when I'm ready to post another video and I want to make sure that it gets attached to that, I can throw one into the stock, post it with it attached, and then that'll sell and it'll be gone. But at least I still have more so I can do that later.
Yeah.
It's technical workarounds, but it's worth it because your video will have that attached to it no matter what. So when it does
I'm gonna
go out of
pause
stock,
1 second, just 1 second. Hey,
yeah.
Landon, I'm on a live. I'm on a live. Sorry, my husband just walked through
Sorry.
the door, and my dog greets him very loudly, so I apologize.
greets him enthusiastically.
Yes. Yes. Okay, sorry, back to you.
Anyways, so it's a workaround, but it works because every video that you have that attached to, when it
Mm-hmm.
comes back into stock, it'll show up again on that video. But you can't
Ooh.
add it to that video while it's out of stock. So you got to add it while it's in stock, and then anytime it is in stock, it'll show back up on that video. It's
That's cool.
kind of interesting, but hey, what are you
Okay,
gonna do?
I'm gonna have to like wrap my head around this
I
because
know
I
it's
can't
all.
even
I
figure
just
out how
it's
to
like
start a shop on my website. I am
it's
so
like
bad.
pouring things out. I know.
No, I love it. It's good. It's good for me, and I know there's some other authors listening, and they were all like, "Tell us more."
Yeah.
We
It
must know
works.
more.
It's been wonderful. Honestly, I think let's see. I think we've sold 40 some of Stone and
Hmm.
Sky on through the TikTok shop, and then I think I think we're still in single digits on the Preludes collection. But again, I give those away for free, so most people don't buy them. But what are you gonna do?
Gotcha. And I have a question, actually, a couple questions. I always like hitting the 3/4 mark. One is for people who are listening, and if crossing fingers that this book talk doesn't glitch, I'll repurpose this on my YouTube channel and post all your content below. But for the people who are listening, do you have a website? Let us know. Where else can people follow you? Can they sign up? Where can they sign up for your newsletter? Tell us, those basics.
Yes, yes, of course. So, the first thing I'll say is you can get free fantasy stories, seven
Yeah.
free fantasy stories about characters that show up in my book, Stone and Sky, this one right here. And you
Yeah.
can get seven stories about these characters. A lot of people have been saying that it's like almost like doing a D&D campaign with a whole bunch of friends, which is
Hmm.
super fun. And then they read the free stories, and then they go and read the book, and they're like, oh my gosh, when they show up, and they're like, it's like seeing an old friend, and I love it. You can get those at freefantasyfiction.com. So that's freefantasyfiction.com. Or you can go to my website, zsdiamanti.com. But that's way harder to spell and remember. So freefantasyfiction.com is way easier. And
I
then
love
of course you can find me on all the social medias, most of the social medias at zsdiamanti, which again is way hard to spell, but it should be right here. I think it's like
Yeah, yes, it
somewhere
is.
right here.
I was gonna say
So if
your
you
last
need,
name and my last name are all, people are like, what?
yeah, right,
How
right.
do you spell your name?
Diamanti. Yeah, it's like say it as Italian as you can. Diamanti.
Diamante.
Diamanti. Right.
Oh goodness. But yeah, so okay, thank you for that. Which platforms do you like to hub the most? Because obviously a lot of us who are already on Book Talk claim Book Talk, but some
Yes.
people actually are like, it's actually my second favorite place. Like, where do you like to hang out
That
with your readers?
Yeah, that's fair. Book Talk is huge for me. We just crossed the 30,000
Woo!
followers mark the other day, which is just like whoop, whoop, so
Fantastic.
awesome. But I've actually found that I've been enjoying talking with everybody on Instagram recently, which I'm
Oh,
probably going to get shadow banned for that. But no,
no,
uh,
no.
no. But I've been enjoying that a lot recently. So if you guys like hanging out over there too, hit me up. That's great.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say for a while I couldn't figure out Instagram because I'm not good with the pretty like picture setup, and
Yeah,
I
I
could
get
not
it.
figure out how to like work the algorithms. But then starting to utilize reels and stories, I finally started to develop,
Starting to
traction there.
figure
But
it out.
it's a little
Yeah,
slower. But it is now. I can see
yeah,
it. And I'm like, okay, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I'm getting it.
yeah.
So
Okay,
it's
we're going somewhere. We're going somewhere with this whole thing.
we're moving. We are
Maybe I'm not
definitely.
wasting my time.
No, no. The only one I failed at is X. I could never figure
Oh.
out before it was X, and then it's kind of floating. I haven't like shut it down, but I don't really do anything there. It's just
I
there.
get it. I totally get it. I quit it. I mean, I was like, I'm done. I should just delete this thing. There's no point in this. Until I did a podcast interview with a guy named Matt. He does Beard of Darkness
Ooh,
reviews, book reviews. We did that last Friday or something,
fun.
and it was a great time. We had a great time. He swears by Twitter, which I was like, dude, there's no way. There's no way. You're joking me. You're messing with me, right? Like, that's no way.
Mm,
He's like, no, no, I'll help you.
some
Get
people
over
it works.
there. Get over there. Like, make sure your name is right. And I was like, okay, fine. So I had to change my name because like I had it as something else because I really didn't care and I was giving up on it
Mhm.
anyways. But I was like, okay, let me switch it back to ZS Diamante, fine. And I kid you not, he posts something about it, and he's like, hey guys, I had the greatest conversation with ZS Diamante, da 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 da, come and give him some love. And all of a sudden, I'm up over 100 people on Twitter, and I was like, What?
What?
What are you talking about? Okay, so you just need to know people on Twitter, is
Yeah, I
what,
guess so.
or on X. Excuse me, X.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Extreme. Do you remember that?
It
What
did
is that?
change over its
Tony.
name.
What was that guy's name? Tony from P90X. Extreme, right? Like,
Extreme. Oh yeah, I still have my P90X DVDs somewhere.
oh,
So
mine are somewhere too. They're around. I
they,
probably
they
should use them more. Maybe.
Let me see. I have a question that just popped up. Says, "Hi, what books do you guys have out? I need to read more new fantasy authors." So give your little pitch
Yeah.
and show your book cover for everybody,
Yeah,
and I'll give
sure.
my little pitch spiel. I'll
Sure.
just do my Vanderbilt light.
If you like fantasy books, well, you're in the right place because we've got all sorts of fantasy books. Right now, this is a series that I'm working on, Stone and Sky. It's very much epic fantasy adventure, very much
Mhm.
classic style fantasy. Yeah, think Forgotten Realms and R.A. Salvatore and all those guys over there, just having fun with the fantasy adventures, which you can find obviously through my account here.
Yeah. And his has Griffin writing. Just throwing it out there for
Ah,
Griffin people.
yes,
Has,
Griffin
Griffin
writing.
people are intense.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell by these magical Griffin covers, it has Griffin writing.
I love that. And for me, I'm Katharine Wibell. I write various epic fantasy. I have 3 series at the moment. I'll try to go through them quickly for as much as possible with as much detail as possible. So starting with kind of paralleling his vibe of young adult. Well, I have young adult, but it's epic fantasy. It's that kind of noble, bright adventure questing based. It's a magical multiverse. There are 12 magical worlds, multiple dimensions. It's pretty much a free for all of all magical things. I love pulling entities, beast beings from various mythologies. It's just a lot of fun. It is very chosen one archetype. It does start with a younger character who ages up. Then I get a little darker with my new adult war shifter based fantasy, set in a kingdom on the verge of war, where both the humans and the native race of shapeshifters have to see if they can put aside their differences to fend off an incoming threat. There's a lot of prophecy involved with that one, and it is grittier because it is a war-based one. And then the Guardian Speaker, which you almost never see in these videos, is my novella series for adults. It is a Viking dark fantasy. It's also a dark retelling on Norse mythology. This is my closest thing to a rapid release. I have 10 at the moment. They should be 16, but they are novellas. And again, it's very immersive in Nordic myth and lore, and is my darkest one as of this moment. So the darker
Yeah,
side to the fun, bright side.
that's
Voila.
right. Voila! All the fantasies. We're
So
hitting
I love this
all
like
those
poster in the
spots.
background. I can be like, here, here, here. Whenever I have to change it up in the future, I'm going to be so confused. I'm going to be like, wait, I mean,
Wait,
that one
this one's over
there?
here.
That
I know
one?
I was doing the backwards thing. I was like, I got this one. This is wait, that one's oh yeah, that one's Stone and Sky. Oh, and then that one's the Preludes collection. Yeah, yeah, everything's
Yeah,
backwards.
this is why reverse poster is brilliant stuff for social media. Already
Yes.
inverted ones. I love it. I absolutely love it. Though
That's
I was posting
that's actually very
an unboxing.
clever.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a great idea. Just throwing it out there. I posted an unboxing video of she was here a little bit ago, but Dia Carlson's book recently, and it was so funny because I kept flip flopping the inverse, and someone paused and was like, "Why is it when you invert it so you see the book cover, everything behind you is backwards?" And I was like, "Okay, here's why." Sorry, it might be a little nauseating. I'm so sorry. Didn't think about that.
That's hilarious. That's pretty
But
clever.
yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Hey, it's all right. Hey, I think people understand that you're a book person when they can immediately see a bookshelf. But the
Yes,
way my office is set up, it's just not, I don't have a
sure.
good place to have something like that in the background. So I
Sure.
was like,
Yeah.
I need to throw something up.
Yeah,
So
and I built mine
propped up, loosely
specifically.
propped up posters.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I straight built mine specifically because I was getting on TikTok and I was like, okay, there's this thing. Everybody seems to have this nice aesthetic, and everybody who's doing well
Yeah.
does this and that. And I was like, I have a gajillion books, but my library upstairs doesn't look really great, and it's not in my office. So I'm gonna build a whole new bookshelf, and so that's what we ended up doing.
I think it's great. And before terribly long, within the year, if not hopefully a lot sooner, My husband and I are going to be buying a
She's
house,
like
so
saying
hopefully
it
I'll
out
get the
like.
bookshelf in the background before too long. But until then,
So hopefully when we buy our house here soon, he's gonna build me an
Mark,
epic build shelf. Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Did you hear that? But yeah, let me ask you because the hour's slipping by really quickly.
Oh, I know.
Um,
Isn't that crazy?
it always goes so fast. Okay, is there any topics that you want to cover that we didn't cover, or any questions that you had that you haven't had a chance to ask yet at this
Oh,
moment? I
you know
always like to
what?
make
I
sure.
was thinking earlier you mentioned fast release, okay? And
Yeah,
so I'm a psychopath, and I have this plan to have Stone and Sky. I mean, it hasn't even been a month out yet, and
yeah.
the second book is coming out in February, like
Woo,
the first
exciting.
week of February. I'm like, yeah, yeah, and I got plans for the next book to come out shortly after that as well. I don't want to commit to any dates yet, but I like it's shortly after that, right? And so I was curious for you, what is your like? Do you? What is your strategy for releases? Like, how long between releases are you currently running? Because you got
I
the whole poster behind you that you got to talk about.
well, part of it is an understanding of the way I work because I've talked to authors and they write a book, start to finish, market, publish, all that, then they work on the next project. I'm not that way. I write in different layers. So in the morning, I'm working on new material. In the afternoon, I'm either editing, formatting, marketing,
Cool.
advertising,
Yeah.
whatever. But
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
that, I always have multiple projects in different stages. So that helps me visually look like I'm rapid releasing, but it's because they've been in different stages and they may
Totally.
still take a year to two to like get up front and publish, but
Totally.
they're staged out. I do at this moment of time one full length book of my young adult portal fantasy and four of my novellas a year, so that's five.
Yeah.
I had a little hiccup with scheduling and some issues with one of my editors, so I actually am doing a true rapid release, trying to catch up where I want to be before the end of the year with my novella. So I published
Wow.
one last month. I'm going this past month. Then I have one slotted for next month and one in November, so I can take a
Ooh.
break in December and cry and start again.
That's so funny. Yeah. So I've got the second one. Like I said, I'm working on first round of edits right now. It goes out for second round of edits this week, and then I go into final edits in October, November. But October 1st, I start writing book three, and I should have a good first draft done. A good first like go to the editor draft done by January, and it's like okay, and then we could start on the next one. I'm trying to get myself ahead as well.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, so that we can have a decent release schedule that people aren't waiting like 7 years for some books to come out that are on our shelves that will never come out. Or that will come out, but only when somebody dies so they can market it like crazy, right? Come on.
Yeah. And I will mention, I see someone popped up a couple saying that one, they're going to get your book on Kindle.
Oh,
My books
thank
at the
you.
moment are unfortunately being pulled from KU in order so I can market them ebook wide down the line. I haven't got there yet. That will
Yeah,
probably be
totally.
hopefully early next year. Everything takes stages, but they are
Yes.
still available on Kindle. Now, are
So
yours
technically,
KU or
no, so
wide?
I didn't go KU. I went wide for sure. I
Okay.
wanted to make sure that I could get them out to as many places as possible.
Yeah.
And I honestly I like it. I do have plans to do a cozy fantasy at some point next year.
Ooh.
But which I may decide to test the waters with KU. But right now, with everything that's been going on, I'm like I'm good. I'm gonna chill with what I got. I'm gonna work
And
with what I got.
different style books work better different ways. Like,
Right.
definitely if you're a romance person, KU is a great place to be.
Yeah.
Being
Right.
epic fantasy, it's harder. It is harder. So, I mean, it
Yeah.
makes more sense to be wide if
So it
you're
didn't make a
catering
whole lot
epic,
of
but it's
sense to
just the
try.
background strategies of those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's so cool of you trying to like. Again, it's still fairly, at least for an author, that's a rapid release schedule that you have. I know readers
I'm
want
trying.
one every
Yeah.
day, but
Yeah. Oh well, I know. And when I was thinking I was all awesome and I was like, nice, got the first draft done of the second book and the
Mhm.
first book is just released today. This is awesome. Like the best days ever, right? And then I was
Mhm.
like, 2 days later, somebody's like, I'm getting reviews, which I'll never complain about 5-star reviews. Thank you. Yeah, that's amazing. But,
Mhm.
2 days later, I'm already getting reviews, and I was like, oh, oh, I better work a little faster.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, yeah, you're like, oh, they got through it in 2 days. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
That
Okay,
does
I'll have to
happen.
work
That's
on
that's good. That means they liked it. But yes, then the answer to you down there is yes. My books are all available on Kindle, just not KU. So you can get the
Nice.
ebook through Kindle, just they're not through the Kindle Unlimited program. Those are two different things people get confused about. But yes, I
Yeah,
have they're all on Kindle, and yeah, enjoy. Whichever series calls your fantasy, or if it's the Griffins first, go.
yeah.
That's one I need to add to my TBR list. That always is growing, and I'm such a slow reader, and I
Are
just
you okay? How do you read? Because I read like 5 books at once, all the
I
time.
I do. That's a good question. I do read multiple ones, but they're usually different types. So something maybe a nonfiction. Then
Yeah.
I have usually like maybe an older school epic fantasy. Then maybe
Mm-hmm.
I'll have some easy read. Just one of
Yeah,
those
just
that you can
for
turn in a
fun.
yeah, just a quick one, not as dense. So I
Yeah.
usually have a couple going on, but it's just unfortunate. Like I read all the time. It's usually my
Yeah.
books in various stages. So
Yeah.
by the time
Sure.
I'm done, it's like
You're
do I
tired.
want to read some more or do I want to binge a show?
I get it. I get it. Audiobooks have been a saving grace for me on that, honestly. Just being able to listen to them in the car and stuff instead of my eyes always being the window to all of the books. It's
Oh
been
yeah,
really nice. So
I need to get
I'm with you.
better about getting into audio. Like it's funny because I'm converting my books slowly into audio, but
Yeah.
I never think about getting it for myself, which is
Yeah.
so funny because every time I've listened to audio in any kind of form, it's always like, oh, that's so cool. And I
I
just never
love
think about
it.
it.
And then and then it's
Nope.
gone.
I have a question popped up. Do we only read fantasy or do we read outside our particular genres? Well, you actually started with his horrors, so, I
Yes.
assume you read a variety.
No, I do not just read fantasy. I read all sorts of stuff. I actually really enjoy, obviously, I read a lot of fantasy, but I also enjoy thrillers and horror. I enjoy a lot of classics. Um,
Mhm.
and including Gothic style horror and classics like Edgar Rice Burroughs, John Carter of Mars, and Tarzan, and like the list goes on for the good classics. Man, there's so many good books out there, and they might be
There are
old, but
so
they're
many.
still good books.
Hmm.
I read a lot of sci-fi. I have 2 whole sections on my shelf
Ooh,
that
look how long your bookshelf is. I
are
love it.
yeah, it just keeps going. Um, I
Okay.
have 2 whole sections on my shelf that are Star Trek books, so don't hate. So I do read a wide variety of things myself.
Yeah. And as for me, I had a bad habit, not maybe not bad habit, but what I originally did. Sorry, my dog just decided to pop up. He's
Hello,
immense. Uh, his name is Odin, by the way. Shocker.
great name.
But
My cat's name is Griffin.
oh, I love that. But yeah, no, I started with ancient epic. So, which is weird to people, but I was a child who read the Odyssey and the Iliad and stuff like that for fun. So I have a lot of Icelandic sagas and all that kind of stuff on my bookshelves. Only until probably when I joined Book Talk, when I started challenging myself to read more concurrent and more iconic fantasy,
Mm,
because I spent so many years reading like the source material for mythology, which is what I write about, but it's be careful, that's a sword, dude. Uh, sorry, dog playing with pointy
things
objects, not like
things you never thought you would have to say in your life.
sorry, that is kind of
Careful,
funny
dude. That's
thinking
a
about
sword.
it.
Okay.
Fantasy authors. I feel like every fantasy author you get published, you need to like end up with either a sword or a dagger or a bow, whatever your character
You
like.
should
Like
definitely have some swords and weapons and some fantasy weapons,
I
obviously.
I definitely do have multiple ones. I don't know. I have a bunch I have to hang up some point somewhere somehow. But anywho, everybody should have a fantasy sword at some point.
Agreed.
Maybe not a fantasy sword, but But yeah, I lost my train of thought. But the point being is, yes, I will read anything that people will suggest. I definitely have my preferences. I go to, and I tend to go to the epic fantasy and ancient sagas and stuff like that. But I will read anything if,
Yeah.
you know. And I have a question about your tattoos, and then we'll be slowly wrapping up before too long. But someone was asking, what are on yours?
Oh man, I have a lot of tattoos, obviously. Um, they go all the way
Any
up,
author tattoos yet? Because
and
I've seen a lot of authors now getting author tattoos.
I should definitely probably get a griffin on. I've
There
run
you
out
go.
of space around here, so maybe I just gotta go Christy. I, I've run out of space on my arms, so I have to start working in other places at this point. No, but I do. Let's see. I have a lot of. So all of my tattoos are very meaningful for me. I won't go into the long story because every single one has meaning
Yes.
and
Well,
purpose.
it should, I would think. I mean, theoretically.
Oh, you would think, yeah, but it's
Yeah, one would think.
not actually the case for a lot of people. But
That's
every single one I have is all very, very specific. I do have a secret one that I have a couple of secret ones that are mixed into the tattoos.
ooh, fun.
Somebody said Star Trek Forever. Let's
Yeah.
just say there may be some Forever Star Trek things on my arms. Yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Well, if anybody else has last minute questions, please ask them now. And but yeah, no, I think that's kind of fun. It's always good, I think, to read outside your genre. It's important to read the genre you're marketing to, obviously,
Totally.
so you know kind of what's you're trying to market into.
Yeah.
But reading outside your genre also can, open your eyes and not make you so niche. Plus, you can learn different type of writing styles and approaches to writing that
Totally.
various genres have. So.
Yeah, and you can glean so much from other genres. It's so worthwhile. It's people who stick to only one, you're like, man, you're just missing. There's so much. Like there really is. You totally should take this adventure or this adventure or this, or go over here and explore this because really there's just so much to explore in books. It's great.
And there are so many new genres or names being slapped on books that hadn't been able to be identified for different genres that are kind of fusion-like in various ways.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
don't limit yourself. Just
yeah,
understand sometimes that makes marketing that much harder. But
yeah.
you could all of a sudden be like the creator of cozy fantasy one day with a blink of an eye. So you never know. You never know.
Right, exactly, exactly. That's the thing. Don't put yourself in a
Exactly.
box.
Exactly. Well, thank you everybody who's been listening today and listening at least to me ramble. I ramble all the time, but
Yeah, sure. We blazed through that hour like nobody's business. I was like, man. Oh,
yeah,
hey,
no,
Mark, what's going on?
I always feel that when I talk to someone who's never done one with me and I have like an hour and I'm like, I promise you, it doesn't feel that long. If it does, something's wrong.
Yeah, yeah,
It should actually feel, just casual and candid and all that stuff. So thank you for joining me. And I do
yeah.
these weekly. So, if you ever want to do another one, let me know because
Oh,
it's
yeah.
fun.
Let's
And
do it.
I'm so excited now. I'll see you on 20
I
books
know.
because I
Now we
really
get
don't
to
know
like
anybody.
make some TikToks together and we'll be like, oh, look at us
Yes!
go, making TikToks and 20 bucks.
I love it. I love it. And I see a couple comments popping up saying, well done, tons of ideas. Well, I'm glad. I
Hey,
think that's the
good.
fun thing is just tossing ideas around because both on the reader side and the writing author side, you never know what you can learn. Maybe it's a new
Yeah,
book. Maybe
totally.
it's a new concept for marketing. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Sure, right,
But you
exactly.
never know.
That's the best part about these kinds of things. We all get to talk together, ideas get bouncing around, and all of a sudden everybody's learning. So it's awesome. I thank you for having me. This was only my second live on TikTok ever.
Oh my God, you're such a natural.
I haven't actually started one myself. So I'm so glad that I get to just like click on yours and you're like, oh, perfect, here you are. And I go click and
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yep. I was glad to move that smoothly because sometimes I have hiccups on my end, and I'm like, I hope they just invite themselves in because I can't figure out this. I'm not tech savvy. I'm a writer. I'm not tech savvy.
Yeah, so we spend our time on other things sometimes. We got to
Yep.
work that out.
Yep. Well, again,
That's
thank
great.
you for everybody who's listening. Thank you, and I hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your week.
Yeah.
Happy
Bye, guys.
reading.
Have a good one.